that Ash and April have had a conversation. Then the issue became between April and Ash, and they resolved it between them, and actually the person who felt disrespected was not a part of it at all. I know Ash has great intentions, but it wasn't what I wanted, and it wasn't what I vocalised, and I felt unheard.
I'm so sorry about my late review. As you know, work has been working, so I've been very busy. I couldn't upload in time. Anyway, I'm finally happy that at least Devanni can leave. He can leave with his head held high. I wish he had taken Ashley with him, because Ashley didn't deserve to stay. Ashley has been through a lot, just like Devanni has been through a lot. They have really tried their best with women that really didn't like them, if we're going to be honest. And then April, I am going to predict, is about to be the next villain. All the wives are about to go for her. We are about to see everyone come for April, because now Julia Ruth has left. We need a new villain. And sadly, it's April's turn, because it seems Maeve was able to get away without being called the villain, irregardless of what happened in her marriage. The idea that they allowed her to leave with this aggrieved woman, storyline doesn't make sense to me. I wish Joe had come. I hope he comes if there is. I don't remember whether they do a reunion, but if there is a reunion, I would love him to come, because I want him to speak his truth. And I want the truth to come out about all the fights that they were having and exactly what took place. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Married at First Sight UK season 10 episode 24. So we have the couples, it's, commitment ceremony. So everybody's getting ready for the commitment ceremony. You have people just talking about the dinner party and the chaos that it was, the train wreck. Obviously, there is people talking about Julia Ruth and how she behaved and how disrespectful she came across. And Julia Ruth was milking it for all it's worth, because she wanted to leave with the storyline. I don't know how the rest of the couples feel about her at this point. And I'm very curious to find out whether they still have the same opinion about her as they did during the time of filming, because apparently this was filmed 6 months ago. Anyway, you have Devanni having a chat in his confessional saying, it's sad that this has come to an end. He really came here looking for a wife and he didn't find the person that he wanted. Julia Ruth feels she's done her best, and sadly her best wasn't good enough. And it's like, girl, you need to do better. We then see Ashley and Grace. He really looks worn out. Ashley looks worn out. He's at his wits' end. He's really tried. We have to give him credit. Even if he is the husband of the season that's had the affair, we have to give him credit, because he's really tried with this woman. She's really put him through it every time she's found an issue to complain about. So apparently, because April has been saying that she really likes Ash, Grace had a problem with it and told Ashley that she had a problem with it, and Ashley, thinking he was being the supportive husband, went and told April that, I feel like, this is making my wife uncomfortable, so I'd rather we sort of avoid sort of being around one another, because I want my relationship with Grace to work. Well, Grace didn't see it that way. She was aggrieved that why did he go without her? It was all about her. So if he was going to say anything, he should have said anything with her there. And it's like, girl, make it make sense. Make it make sense. Do you want this man to fight for you, or don't you? Which is it? This man looks haggard. Even when they came to the commitment ceremony, it looked as though Ashley had just rolled out of bed because of how haggard he is. I wonder what his sisters think seeing all this take place. Anyway, everybody turns up for the commitment ceremony. The experts are happy to see them. And first up, they started off with the perfect couples. They started off with Abigail and John. Abigail and John are saying they're having a great time. They have very good communication. They've spoken about starting a family, and they see each other as ideal parents for the other person's children. And so they were asked, are you in love? They said, not yet. And they were asked, so if you are not yet in love, why are you talking about kids? I get where they're coming from. It seems everything with Abigail and John, they've discussed physical intimacy, they've discussed the type of relationship they want, they've discussed about children, and so kudos to them. If that's what they want to discuss, I don't understand why the experts have an issue with it. I would rather they talk about it and make sure they're on the same page before they wait, weeks or months down the line and they realize that actually we don't like the same thing. So I'm happy that they had that conversation. They were both asked, do you want to stay or leave? They both chose to stay. No one should be surprised by that. Next up, we have Nelly and Stephen. Nelly and Stephen are not in the best of spaces because Stephen feels like he's offered as much reinforcement and support as he can. Nelly, on her part, feels she needs more support. She feels he let her down because he wasn't supportive when she was clashing with Julia Ruth. She would have liked him just even to put his hand behind her back to say, I'm here for you. But he was nowhere to be found, so she feels aggrieved because of that. He feels like he was supportive and he feels like the fight was unnecessary and he felt like everybody else should not have been involved. At the end of the day, I feel like Stephen at this point is fed up of everything and he just wants to go home, but he's going to stay on the show as long as Nelly wants to stay on the show. And if this is going to be their storyline, then he's just going to have to deal with it. That's the impression that it gives me. He doesn't give me someone who's hopelessly in love with his wife and wants to stay there because he wants to learn and get enough tools for them when they leave the experiment. And they were both asked, will you stay or leave? On her part, you had Nelly say stay. Stephen said he would stay for now. And it's like, is he staying for now just so he can see what happens with Julia Ruth or what? Make it make sense? I didn't understand that and I didn't like it because Nelly then was aggrieved by that because she said she felt blindsided because why is he saying for now? Does he mean that he's on his way out and he's just waiting for an opportunity to leave? That was a bad use of words, in my opinion. That was a bad use of words. He could have done better. I don't know why he felt the need to say that. So I can't wait to see what happens with the two of them. Next up was David and Kia. They are in a very good space. They really are enjoying each other's company. They said when they had to have activities where they were separated, they really missed each other. So they are happy that they are in this space where they can be together. They're constantly affirming each other. They really praise each other. They spoke about the fact that they've been talking about life after the experiment and that they live 30 minutes apart and how they're going to make that work for one another. They're going to keep in touch. I am starting to see where they are going. Initially, I thought it was just superficial, but it seems they have some emotional depth, especially when David is talking about, Kia, because he said, you make me feel appreciated, you make me feel heard, and you make me feel seen. So if it works for them, I root for love. I want it to work. They both chose to stay. Nobody should be surprised that they both chose to stay. This was a given that they were going to both choose to stay. Next up, we have Maeve. Maeve came there. She's the aggrieved woman. This man has really wasted her time. She could have easily gone home and seen her son. She didn't need to stay in the experiment. I have a feeling a producer sat down with her and asked her to stay and said, let's keep you here. If you agree to stay, we'll give you a positive edit. And that's what they did. Because everything that Stephen has complained about, it has never been addressed by the experts, and I don't get why. Because she said, I didn't get the answers I deserved. He should have told me if he didn't tell me whether he couldn't tell me whether he cared for me or he didn't. I don't understand why he said I love you when he wasn't serious. And so Stephen wrote a letter. I think he told the producers that he wasn't coming, and so they suggested a letter, and he must have decided that this is what he was going to do. He said he came into the experiment wanting to find his soulmate. Sadly, he didn't find that, and when he realized that he hadn't found it, he checked out and was ready to leave. I feel like the first time they had a clash, he thought it was a mistake. And then the second time he realized that this was a pattern and he was done with her. And sadly, Maeve won't acknowledge that. And because it wasn't shown on camera, we'll never get to see exactly what happened between the two of them. We'll get this sort of sanitized version of their relationship. I don't even understand why she was there. She said, I feel disrespected. I deserve better answers. And now it's time for me to choose myself and go and see my son. She had this opportunity for the guys to lift her up and everything. I think they did way too much for Maeve. I think there's a lot more, and I can't wait to hear when people start doing podcasts and interviews to find out exactly what was going on between her and Joe. Next up is Rebecca and Bailey. You had Rebecca say, they are very, secure and independent people. So they complement each other in the sense that they're able to sort of be amongst other people and still feel confident in themselves and not worry or want reassurance. that I felt was a dig at Nelly, or it came across as a dig at Nelly, because you could see from her face that she didn't like that. They both say, they're in this good space, they're doing very well. There was a worry about life after the experiment. How are they going to connect that, and how are they going to make it work? On his part, you had Bailey, so I can foresee myself introducing her to my daughter or to his child. That, yeah, I think she is a daughter. So I don't know how that will play out. I really don't know. I'm pleasantly surprised by their connection. I didn't expect them to work from what we saw on day one. So I'm surprised that we are here. They both chose to stay. Nobody's surprised. Leah and Lee, they seem to be doing very well. They said this week was a better week for them. They say they're in a very good space. They were asked to sort of give words that describe their coupling. They said progressing, and they were united. They were asked about physical intimacy, and they sort of danced around it and said we're not going to go into detail of what we did, which kudos to them for not describing it. It seems they've managed to create a friendship, or a very strong friendship, that is on the road to love. Do I think it's on the road to love? I don't know. I really don't know. They seem to be doing amazingly well. They said, they really care about one another and they're way past friendship. I'm a bit confused with the two of them. They say they were asked that if you are in the real world and you see someone who is your type, would you still stay with your partner or would you leave? And you had Leah say, no, I can't say that, because, we're always going to find people that we think are better than the person that we have. So we need to focus on what we have. And so I don't know. I think the experts are sort of questioning, given what Julia Ruth said, whether these two are being genuine or not. Hopefully they're being genuine. They both chose to stay. Surprised? No. Next up was Julia Ruth and Devanni. Devanni looked drained. He looks drained. He said emotionally he's drained. Julia Ruth on her part said she's back to being herself. She complained bitterly about Devanni leaving the apartment 2 hours after they got to the couples retreat, because she says she went to the retreat for him. She tried to put on a performance. She tried to play a victim, and she could see that the experts were not buying whatever she was selling, because every time they were going to Devanni first before they came to her, and whatever answers she gave, they would go back to Devanni to see if Devanni was telling the truth or not. And so I don't get it, because Devanni was asked, what made you leave the room? And he said, well, he had a conversation with Bailey and realized that, she was flirting about the Stephen situation. And so there was no point in me staying. Julia Ruth complained, I came for you, I stayed for you, yet you stayed for 2 hours and then you left. I'm happy that he came back at her and said, I stayed for weeks and still there was no change. So what's the point of me staying worrying about 2 hours or 3 hours? I was here for weeks on end. Julia Ruth failed to take accountability. For her to complain that everybody at the dinner party was attacking me and wouldn't give me a chance to speak, people were not stopping you from speaking. People were asking you to make a point and stop running around in circles. And the idea that you haven't seen this or you haven't learned anything doesn't make sense to me. And I'm so pleasantly confused that why are we here? So you had Devanni say when they came to the dinner party, he was really sad because he was sort of in the dumps about his failed marriage, and then Julia Ruth was behaving as though nothing had happened. Julia Ruth, I don't think came onto the show for marriage. I'm going to repeat. I think she came for fame, and she knew how she was going to get her fame, and her friends encouraged her mess, and sadly this is just showing how dysfunctional she is. They were both asked, what lessons did you learn? Devanni said he learned that he's stronger than he thought and that he puts others first before himself. On her part, Julia Ruth said, I learned that my words have impact and I need to think before I speak. Nah, I don't think so. I think she was just saying what she thought, felt, or would come across as amazing. She did another TikTok. I'm not wasting my time watching a TikTok. So whoever has time, you can go and watch them. They both chose to leave. Nobody's surprised by that. You had Reese and Leisha saying they were connecting very well. When they had the individual activities at the retreat, they really missed one another. They said they've learned to unschedule SEX and they've changed locations. They seem to be doing very well. On his part, Reese appreciates the fact that Leisha has slowed down and she's no longer too in your face, which has allowed them to connect. They seem to be doing well. They seem more relaxed at a more even pace. So I love that for them. They both chose to stay. No one is surprised. April and Leo. April, well, there was a bit of a sort of two people reading from different books, because Leo said, he's working on being open. He feels like this week was a better week for the two of them. He thinks that they're doing very well. and they have made progress. On her part, April said, I don't see the progress that he is mentioning. It was brought up about the fact that, you heard April had mentioned Ashley twice. How did you feel? And he said, he felt insecure, and he didn't want to rock the boat. So that's what he more or less implied. This is why he kept quiet. And so I think the experts were trying to see whether emotionally he really likes April, or he's just staying with April just for the sake of staying with April. I'm still trying to suss out exactly what's going on there. I really am, because it doesn't make sense to me how they are together and saying they don't get along, and yet on day one they made us all believe that they were in the very best of places. So I am pleasantly confused with where we are and what's going on with the two of them. They both chose to stay. I was surprised that they both chose to stay. Really, I was surprised they both chose to stay. Lastly, we had Ashley and Grace. Grace said she felt unheard. She thought, they were doing amazingly well. And sadly, the issue with this situation with April has made things worse, because when April came into the experiment, they both thought they were going to be friends with her, but it seems she's more friends with Ashley than she is with Grace, and Grace feels some type of way. It's like, Grace, make it make sense. You didn't like this man. You couldn't stand him touching you. You couldn't stand him kissing you. So the idea that suddenly you are in this space whereby you want him to touch you, you want him to kiss you, you want him to cuddle you, I'm confused with it. I really am confused, and I don't get why. Maybe it's just me overthinking it, but it doesn't make sense from where the two of you came from, that you were always complaining that you don't like him touching you. But even after they had the conversation on the couch, you had to sort of lean into him and actually lift his hand to cuddle her, and then she kissed him. And it's like, what is going on? Are we fighting, or are we making out? They are very toxic and dysfunctional, and I think Ashley is worn out. I expected them both to leave. So we'll see what happens. It seems like next time they will be leaving, because Ashley's at his wits' end. Since the week that he refused to stay in the apartment, I think it's one more shot and then he's done. I think whatever feelings he had for her, they are wearing off thin. So I can't wait to see what happens. Thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 23. Bye everyone.